Today we're doing section 1.6. It's basically just a recap of section 1.5. Remember your rules. If you have the same sign, you add and keep the sign. If you have different signs, you subtract and take the sign of the larger. On this first slide, you see lots of problems that deal with adding and subtracting whole numbers. Remember the rules. If your signs are the same, you add them. So our first problem is negative 13 and negative 5. That negative you can call negative, you can call it a minus, you can call it subtraction. All of those mean that it's a takeaway sign. So I don't care what you call the sign, just know that it's not positive. So a negative 13 and a negative 5 have the same sign. That tells me to add them. So 13 plus 5 would give me 18, and I'm going to keep the sign, which is a negative. My answer for that one is negative 18. Looking at the next one, you have 7 minus 19. Those have different signs. Different signs tell you to subtract. So if you said 19 minus 7, you would get the number 12. But remember your rule says to subtract and take the sign of the larger. Since 19 was larger, my sign is going to be negative. My answer is negative 12. The next problem is 5 minus 9. Those have different signs. Different signs tell you to subtract. So 5 minus 9, or 9 minus 5 rather, would give me a 4. Remember to take the sign of the larger, that would be a negative 4. 0 minus 4 is next. 0 minus anything would just give you that number, and so my number here would just be minus 4. 7 minus 0, taking away 0 from any number, would just leave you with the original number, which would be 7. Negative 3 minus 14, they have the same sign, so we add, we get 17. Remember, we add and keep the sign, so we get negative 17. That's our first slide. In our next slide, we see more than one term. I'm going to group mine, but you can work it however you choose. I'm going to group the first two, and I'm going to group the last two. In the first problem, I see negative 5 minus 11 plus 17 minus 3. Negative 5 and minus 11 have the same sign, so I'm going to add and keep the sign. 17 and 3 have opposite signs, so opposite signs tell me to subtract and take the sign of the larger, which would be plus. Now I can combine the two resulting terms. When I combine those, I see that they have opposite signs. Opposite signs tell me to subtract. 16 minus 14 would give me a 2. Taking the sign of the larger, this answer would be negative 2. The next problem, you see 5 minus 11. Anytime you have two negatives together make a positive. So rewriting this problem, it would actually be 5 plus 11. 5 and 11 have the same sign, so I'm going to add them up and keep the sign. So my answer would just be a positive 16. The next problem has variables with it. The problem is 3x minus negative 4y minus 2y minus a negative 5x. If I see two negatives back to back make a positive. So when I rewrite this problem, I have 3x plus 4y minus 2y plus 5x. At this point, we can combine like terms. So when we combine like terms, I see that I have a 3x and a 5x. So 3x and 5x would give me an 8x. I also see that I have a 4y and a 2y. 4y minus 2y, I subtract and take the sign of the larger, so that would give me a 2y. And my answer is 8x plus 2y. One more problem like that. We have negative 2x minus 5y plus 6x minus 8y. Putting your x's together, you have a negative 2x and a 6x. Those have different signs, so you subtract and you get 4x. Keeping the sign of the larger, that's a positive 4x. Looking at the y group, you have a negative 5y and a negative 8y. Those have the same sign, so you're going to add them. When you add them, you get 13y. And remember to keep the sign of the larger, that's a negative 13y. So your final answer is 4x minus 13y. In my next problem, I am distributing. So I'm going to distribute through the first set of parentheses and then the second. The problem states 6 times parentheses 2x minus 5 plus 9 times parentheses 3x plus 2. Distributing the 6 through, you get 12x minus 30. Distributing the 9 through, you get 27x plus 18. Now you need to put your x groups together. So 12x and 27x, if you added those together, you would get 39x. Then you have negative 30. Then you have negative 30 and 18. Those have different signs. Different signs tell you to subtract and take the sign of the larger. 30 minus 18 would give me 12. Since 30 is larger, we're going to take that sign, which gives me a negative. And so your answer would be 39 minus 12x. For sake of time and to make the file not so large, we'll stop this video at this time and pick back up a new video with decimals and fractions.